Tampa Motormouth in the zone, behind the microphone. All crazy all the time. It's been a while since I've done 2 shoes in the same day. But in case you're wondering, as to the title, Yankees and the Sword, that would be a quote that yours truly spun off the top of his cerebral cortex. That would be, Yankees have the Sword of Damocles mathematically hanging over their playoff heads after Phil Koch takes out Mark Teixeira, even after the Yankees tried their best, cut the lead 2-1, but they could not get it done. Justin Verlander, oof, with the way he was pitching that 2-run lead, just as John Sterling ended up saying as I was listening to the Yankees broadcast, just easily could have been 20 runs. 20 runs just with how the Yankees were hitting. Then even to start out the 9th, that foul shot hit the pole. And when nothing goes your way, nothing goes your way. And part of me is, well, I'll be honest, most of me is happy, because it's the whole anything with the Yankees. But you know, I honestly was hoping that they would put up a little bit more competition. All that payroll, all the controversy surrounding Alex Rodriguez, A-Fraud, or I've come up with some new nicknames. Either the Centaur, of course, for the story a couple years back that allegedly he has 2 pieces of artwork hanging above his bed where he is imagined as a centaur, or a more recent one, men left on base instead of A-Rod or A-Fraud, A-Lob. So you can call him A-Lob. But, you know, as much as I was rooting for the Yankees to get ousted, just who could have foreseen it in this way? And you have the improbable all-division series going 5 games, and now another equally improbable finish that's possible. Could anybody have foreseen the mighty Yankees being swept out of the playoffs? Or granted, in some cases with their hitting, not so mighty with RASP, as Yankees have been positively Rays-esque, and not in a good way at times when they couldn't score, because the Yankees, it's all been about the home run. Yankees can get home runs going, they win. If they don't, more than often not, because I totally, completely forgot about the wild card factor. I was commenting on the Sports Shuffle page, and I'm like, okay, how did they get by the Orioles again? Because you see them struggling. How did they get by the Orioles again? And then fellow Sports Shuffle Sir Kevin KC, the consummate Chicago Bears fan, fanatical Yankees fan, pointed out Ibanez. How quickly I forget, and Ibanez wasn't even Ibanez tonight. I know the story talked about in the first blast that I am doing today. Put that up on the shuffle page. That first blast, kind of a practice run, since it's been a while since I've done a solo show. I talked about A-Rod decided to pay attention to things other than baseball. Yes, the story that's out there on the internet. Just Google Alex Rodriguez. It's out there. I'm not doing any grounds-breaking podcasting here, any grounds-breaking broadcasting here, but find it highly amusing. This is not a scoop. It's out there, but I tell you, when your team is getting its butt figuratively and literally handed to it, it's probably not a good idea. And this is reportedly, so nothing is confirmed. This could easily be conjecture, but yeah, because then someone says, somebody posts something on the internet, it must be true, but if it's up there on the sporting news, you see it on places like Fox Sports, folks, then probably there's a good chance there might be some truth in the story. And as the reported story goes, that Alex Rodriguez apparently was flirting with two females at Comerica Park and had a mall boy pass a ball to them with a note or a message to please put their phone numbers on the baseball. And of course, you could have about 40 million jokes out of that I won't go down that path of the dark side. I'm sure somebody could do a whole routine on that. Balls. Okay, I'll stop. And they put their phone number on the ball, and apparently the brunette, one of the two ladies, threw the ball back to A-Rod, who caught it and had a huge smile on its face. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Because I'm sure there were Yankee fans. I'm taking off my Rays baseball cap. I'm putting on my baseball cap here. If I were, I would never be. Maybe in an alternate reality, but never in this reality. Never. No, not in this reality. No, sir. Not in this reality. Maybe in an alternate reality. I would be a Yankees fan, but never in this one. Nope. But I could imagine if I were to put on a Yankee. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just getting the chills and getting highly uncomfortable with even imagining putting on a Yankees cap. But if I were, sorry, hang on, I have to compose myself here. Whew. Deep breaths. Okay, don't panic. If I were a Yankees fan, I could imagine what I would feel if Alex Rodriguez, the highest paid $29 million for this year, was spending his time when his team, he's benched. He already had been pinch hit for because he sucks this postseason. He's already been pinch hit, this is easy for me to say, pinch hit for. He's been benched during a playoff game. That's about as close, borrowing from the medical field, as a stat situation in sports that I could possibly think of. In Star Trek, that's a red alert situation. You're there. They want you to rock and roll. And what is he doing? Allegedly flirting. Okay. Yeah, I can imagine. Whew, okay. I'll take the imaginary Yankees cap off. Take that imaginary Yankees cap off. But I can imagine. Seriously. So and it's interesting that I can imagine that there are Yankees fans out there who don't exactly like the fact that A-Lob is on their team. So, doesn't exactly strike me as a fan favorite. Like, yay! A-Lob is out on the field. Go A-Lob. Yay! Maybe if he got like a grand slam or a home run to win a game, then maybe for a couple minutes they might like him, but A-Lob. What did I tell you? What to do? I mean, could you imagine that? And the other thing that I was musing was Okay, how many contacts and phone numbers does he already have in his little black book? And his black book must be the size of War and freaking Peace, folks. Seriously. Well, could you imagine? Could you imagine what a week, 1 week would be like dating-wise? Dating-wise. Because yours truly, yours truly is I'm finally come to terms trying to know how many single is awesome, folks. It is. Single rocks. Don't have to check with anyone. You can do pretty much just, okay, what do I want to do? Do I feel like doing something? I don't know. Hang on. Let me check with myself. Self, or maybe I should call myself. Ring. Hi, self. It's yourself. Great, self. How you doing today? I don't know, self. I'm kind of a little bit on the tired side, self. Well, okay, self. So that means you really don't want to go anywhere? Nah, not really. You don't want to go to a movie? Nah, not really. How about clubbing? Really, self? You know me better than that. Yeah, you're right, self. But self, did you want to go out? Self, I really don't feel like going anywhere today, self. Okay, self. That's pretty cool, self. I understand that. I got that. So you really don't want to? Nah, self, I really don't feel like doing anything. Okay, cool, self. You know that we might want to go see the movie next week, self. Yeah, you know what, self, you're right. But today, I don't really, you know what? I feel like chilling, self. You know what, self, you're right. Thank you for having this conversation, self. So that's what being single is like. That's what being single like. Single is awesome. Where was I going with that? I was going somewhere with that. But anyway, so I tell you that. Oh, could you imagine? Could you imagine? I remember tangented off the stream of consciousness avenue, went off into a side street, made a U-turn, and got back on the main stream of thought. Aha, there you go. Perfection. Ah, yes. Can you imagine what one page, how wild and crazy. I wonder also how much that would cost. That'd be a pretty interesting mill, but seriously. What one page of Adlob's black book might be like. That would be an interesting week. Imagine that'd be that you might be able to write a book. Seriously, you might. Then you'd be like, okay, that's enough for this lifetime. Yo, woo, yeah. So anyway. But enough with talking about Adlob as, well, I tell you, it's time to switch to another line of thought. Something a little bit less depressing than Adlob. So, how's your fantasy team doing? Oh wait, I said less depressing. And yeah, I'll tell you, just kind of go over some of the key injuries, at least in regards to quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. Because I'll tell you, even though I've changed my fantasy football team names. I have. I started off with just the probables. Well, one was the probables, the other was the doubtfuls. With how this season has gone, just generally so far, I've changed it to one is reset button, and the other is the cruel wind of fate. Anyone can relate? Maybe out there going, seriously? Can you imagine last night? Can you imagine if you had Denver, DST, and Peyton Manning? Could you imagine that? Denver, DST, and Peyton Manning. Yeah. Can you imagine that? If you, both ends of that equation, If you played them on your team, you're like, I am the champion. If you lost, you must really have a pathetic lineup. You had Peyton Manning and Denver DST on your team, you still lost last night for that week. Or, if you played against them, then it's the following song. If you had them on your team, it's I am the champion, I am the champion, I am the champion of the world. And if you played against Peyton Manning and Denver DST, turn them on. Turn on those sad songs when all of your hope is gone. That's the time to turn them on. Turn them on. Turn them on. Turn on those sad songs. Yeah, that's pretty much if you had to play against them. So anyway, kids, what can I say? But injuries. No, I really love fantasy football because even with this, it's fantasy football is like no other fantasy game because of how few games there are. That's why fantasy hockey is kind of frustrating. Fantasy baseball, to me anyway. This is my personal opinion. And other people out there like, man, I like fantasy baseball way over fantasy football. Man, I like fantasy hockey way over fantasy football. I like fantasy basketball way over fantasy football. But for me, just 17 games. And usually it's maybe more likely to subtract 3. Probably means subtract 3 for me this year. But because when you get in fantasy playoffs, or in week 13, week 14, week 15, week 16, week 17, that's fantasy playoffs time. So you're talking maybe 13, 14 games if you're lucky. And just how quickly everything changes, the trends. And just let's look at the quarterbacks. Look at the quarterback. Kevin Kolb, serious. And this is thanks to fantasyfootballstarters.com. So thank you, guys. Cornerbacks, Kevin Kolb, serious ribs injury. Will miss several weeks. No exact timetable. Skeleton's back. It's John Skeleton. He's back. Starting QB. Got Larry Fitzgerald. He's a weapon. So everyone's scrambling for Skeleton. That's right. Make no bones about it. Are perfect in time for Halloween. The Arizona Cardinals will have a Skeleton crew. I know. Boo hiss. Boom, boom, shh. Hey, I can do my own sound effects. What can I say? Bum, bum, bum. Some of you are thinking bum, bum, shh. Some of you are going bum, 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 bam. No one mean you. So that's Kevin Kolb. And how about Jake Locker? Not ready to come back from the injury yet. Here comes. You do the Hasselbeck. You do the Hasselbeck. You Chubby Checker just popped in right there. So there's Hasselbeck. That's what you do when you do the Hasselbeck. I have no idea. That's what you do when you do the Hasselbeck. Yeah. So anyway, so Jake Locker, yeah, he's not ready. Titans, they can score. They can have a good games. So there's Hasselbeck. So Hasselbeck's a good guy to pick up. And then, Philadelphia. Shine Sweet. It's Wrong Freedom song. It's Shine Sweet Freedom. That's the George Michael one. The one I'm wanting to think of is the Elton John one. Philadelphia. I don't have it. I have the tune kind of in my head, but Philadelphia Freedom. So you have to sing it amongst yourself. Type Philadelphia Freedom into YouTube. Bring up the Elton John video, and then you can sing it at yourself at the computer. Okay, that's your homework assignment. That's your homework assignment from the Sports Shuffle. Type it in the computer, bring it up, and then somebody's gonna. You're like, why are you singing Elton John, Philadelphia Freedom? This guy on the internet told me to. What guy? Sports Shuffle dude is kind of like a little loopy, but he's all crazy all the time, but he's funny. He is really. Yeah, he's crazy. Oh, okay. Anyway, but Philadelphia, potential QB change after all. Remember Andy Reid, oh yeah, defensive coordinator. You have the Philadelphia Eagles fantasy coaches team, and you have their defensive coordinator. You might want to pick up another defensive coordinator. You go as a joke. Anywho, so is it rookie Nick Foles? Michael Vick, who's been taking about 50 gajillion hits. So, rookie. Can you imagine? Can you imagine when the Eagles come out of the Week 7 bye? Everyone who drafted Michael Vick as a quarterback is like, are you bleeping kidding me? I have to get a handcuff for Michael Vick? What do you know? And Foles is going to have Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy. I mean, so that's not bad, right? And, well, what do you know? And this is not in so much as a QB. Change-up is going to be who's going to be coming back. You better believe Castle's going to be coming back from Chiefs. Says, come on in. Come on in. They won't get anything done with the mighty Quinn. Yeah, I know. Bad singing. Bad singing is a staple on the shuffle. So that's when you know when I'm in one of those moods. What can I say? It's shuffle idle. Idle minds. Why is everything idle? I don't know. Hopefully, Anywho, but Brady Quinn, yeah. Matt Castle, better QB. Dwayne Bowe's fantasy value is going. So it sounds like basically from the article, barring any setbacks in the recovery from the Week 5 concussion, looks like Castle will be starting QB when they come out of their Week 7 bye. So that means Brady Quinn's fantasy value bye-bye, unless, of course, Castle's not cleared, all the concussion guidelines and testing and so on and so forth. That sounds like Brady Quinn probably, find someone else, basically, pretty much, right. Anywho, 2 running backs we go. Felix Jones, that's a duh, even if you're on Twitter or casually glancing over the internet, you probably figured out that DeMarco Murray will miss at least 1 game because of the sprained foot suffered in Week 6. Might be a couple of weeks. He'll at least 1 game. So at least 1 game. Least what's the my brain is attempting to get the neurons firing to figure out the word that I want to say. The best case is 1 game. Worst case scenario, neurons fired up right. Yowza. The worst case scenario is a couple weeks. So Felix Jones, best case is a spot start for 1 week. Worst case, which would be best case for the fantasy owners that picked him up, RB 1 or 2 for a month. And that means that'll be like the stretch run into the playoffs. So, and interesting to note, Ravens. Ravens? Fairly bad against the run all season, and with the recent injuries, yo, what do you know? What do you say? Don't know if Philip Tanner or Lance Dunbar gonna be much of a factor, but you never know with the Cowboys and Jarrett calling the shots. Trent Richardson. Oh yeah. If you have Trent Richardson, you're like another owner that's like, okay, how many points you get? What do you mean he left the game with an injury? But yep, looks like Montario Hardesty going to be starting in his place, and he'll be backed up by Brandon Jackson. Hardesty looked good filling in for Richardson last week. Of course, that was against the Colts, so take out of that what you will, but Hardesty sounds like you're good. handcuff for Richardson owners. And Chris, I'm going to spell it Ogbannaya. Much props to play-by-play folks. That's like when you Ogbannaya. How do you say Chris Ogbanya's last name? Calling on the can't exactly call it a shuffle nation. Can't exactly call it a shuffle city-state. Can't exactly really say call it a shuffle city. How about a shuffle settlement? Ooh, there we go. Brilliant. Calling upon the shuffle settlement. How do you say it, Chris Ogbannaya? So shuffle settlement. Can you help me out here? How do you say the running back's name? Thank you. Much props to play-by-play folks. Woo. Many props. Jets, Jets. They're not done quite yet. Jets running back Sean Green, might have heard about him. With injuries to both Powell and McKnight, Green is all lights are green to go from mission control. Rolled on the Colts. Powell's looking to miss at least one game, possibly more. McKnight, if you drafted him, ouch. Looks like 4 to 6 weeks, kids. High ankle ouch sprain. Green might dominate. And the only other RBs that the Jets have on the roster, Jonathan Grimes, Lex Hilliard. Don't expect any great shakes out of those two unless something happens to Green. And with the way this season is going, just fun. Not wishing absolutely anything on anybody. I'm just taking current trends and how brutal, because there were injuries in postseason. I was only half kidding when I was saying you need to pay attention to who's on the practice squad of every team this year. It's ridiculous with the injuries. Absolutely ridiculous. To the steel curtain we go. Who will it be? Will it be Rashard Mendenhall? Isaac Redman? Mendenhall, of course, inflamed. That's easy for me to say. Rebooting mouth rebooting, mouth back. Thank you. Mendenhall has an inflamed Achilles tendon. This is easy for me to say, while Redmond has an ankle sprain. Neither injury serious, but if they both miss the week, who will it be? Jonathan Dwyer? Or, now, as hard as the other name was to say, this is an awesome name. Baron Batch. That sounds like an evil villain out of a Bond, right? Skyfall's coming up soon. Man, I tell you, it's been a walk. Tangent alert. Sports Shuffle, tangent alert. Sports Shuffle, tangent alert. We are deviating off of the main subject. I tell you, I didn't want to watch. I'm highlighting Baron Batch so I know where I left off so I can go back to it. The new Bond rocks. I tell you, for the longest time, it's just like the new Star Trek. Didn't want to watch it. I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just rebooted, not rebooted, or continued with a new actor, new style. I don't know. For the longest time, I did not want to watch the new Bonds. And then, okay, which one is first? Casino Royale. Wow. Casino Royale flippin' blew me away. Yeah, I know, pun intended, it's a Bond movie deal. Oh, blew me away. Was that a joke, genius? The best scene out of the entire movie was when during the game, and if you haven't seen the movie, I hope you have by now, so sorry if I'm spoiling it to you, but warning, spoiler alert, warning. Best scene in the entire movie was when Bond was in the casino. They poisoned his drink. He's getting out to the car and trying to get the whole detox kit. and he's trying and he can't. Then his assistant, I'm blocking on the names, the absolutely cute Maven, unfortunately, well, you know how that unfortunately ended, but absolutely cute. Don't mess with her, she can kick your butt, because of course it's a Bond movie, so all the women can kick the butt as much as the men can in Bond. Gets like a detoxifier thingy, antitoxin thingy-mahicker, because he's trying to do it. He has like a heart attack in the car. She revives him, and then Bond nonchalantly, passing out of time, nonchalantly goes back into the casino, back into the card game, and the villain is just like, are you freaking kidding me? What the F is going on here? The dude is supposed to be dead. How did he just walk back into this casino and sit down in this table? And just the look on the villain's face is just like, and Bond, who always has just some of the best lines. I think of Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig is Bond just goes, ah, man, that last hand was a real killer. Oh, it was like, oh, you know, that was just okay. That's just like when you totally geek out at like, and just like, best comeback ever. Casino Royale rocked. Quantum of Solace. Whoa. Wow. Awesome. Cannot wait for Skyfall. We will now return you to the mainstream consciousness already in progress. And of course, how did I go on a couple-minute talk about James Bond? Why? Because of Baron Batch. The name, if they both can't play, Jonathan Dwyer, Baron Batch, because of course Richard Mendenhall, Isaac Redman, may not be available for week 7, and I thought Baron Batch sounded like a perfect Bond villain name. Absolutely. And Mr. Bond, before you die, what are your requests? Baron Batch, you will never succeed with your plot to destroy the Earth. I will get you, of course, Mr. Bond. All of you good guys always say that. But, so that's your fantasy options. Jonathan Dwyer, Baron Batch might be interesting to see if either of those two running backs come to be more relevant towards the fantasy playoff stretch run, or even in the fantasy playoff stretch run. Remember Steelers, remember Noelde Moore, anyone? And all of a sudden it's like, where did he come from? Remember Robert Meacham, who briefly had a fantasy relevant spike this year? Ah, yes. To the Patriots, New England. And here's another. This is uncanny. We have Baron Batch, and then in New England's Brandon Bolden. Now that's the name of a good guy. You have Baron Batch. That's the name of an evil that I am, Baron Batch. I will take over the world. There will be no place the good guys can run and hide. But I am Secret Agent Brandon Bolden, and I am here to save the day with my help from the Good Guys Superhero Squad. Right? Have you seen that show? That's a good cartoon show. Great Danish in the morning. Great Danish in the morning. The Marvel Superhero Squad Super Show. That's awesome. I want an Infinity Gauntlet or an Infinity Sword. Honestly, if the Infinity Gauntlet is out of order and out of stock and they don't have it, I'll take an Infinity Sword, you know, if I get a rain check on it. I mean, yeah, it'd still be cool. Not as cool as a Gauntlet. Because a Gauntlet, like, you can wear just about anywhere. Sword, you have to kind of stash that places. The sword's going to be like, sir, you can't bring the Infinity Sword on board the flight. Then you take it up, stop time, hide it like a pocket universe somewhere. Kind of, sort of thingy, got it. You're like, what sword? I don't have a sword. Sir, you just had a sword. I don't have a sword. There's no sword. What do you mean a sword? Why are you trying to point out? Get it? Yeah, point, art. What sword? There's no... Sir, you had a sword. I just store it in a pocket universe. It's fine. I'll get it after the flight. It's on the plane, but technically it's not in the same dimension that we are, so it's not on the plane. Okay, sir. Anyway, just nerding out a little bit. Anywho, but Brandon Bolden, Secret Agent Brandon Bolden. Aggravated his knee in Week 6. Of course, the status for Week 7 is uncertain. So, okay, well, that's why it's bringing up secret agents and all that stuff. Bill Belichick and his injury status reports, right? Coach Belichick? Yeah. Coach Belichick, what's the injury report? Everyone could possibly be injured, and everyone could quite possibly not be injured. Are there any other questions? What's the injury report, Coach Belichick? Oh, his Coach Bell's his incredibly animated press conference style. Of course, I could imagine he was probably animated after losing to the Seahawks, and he was animated there. Yep. But with his knee issue in Week 6, so Week 6 with the ultra secret Patriots, that always they keep you guessing. So, is there going to be any guess that Bolden will probably be questionable? Probably be a game time decision. So, it's a risky. I mean, if you don't have any running backs at all, kind of like my running backs when I'm picking up Vic Ballard and I'm scrambling for the fantasy wire this week. Can you relate? Can anybody relate when your running backs suck? And you're going, ooh, Vic Ballard, yayo. So Brandon Bolden, and got to move just because I saw the time and it's ticking away, and I'm back to myself. Yeah, well, I kind of talked about James Bond for about 4 minutes, so that probably didn't help things. But what the heck? So it'll probably be game time decision. But you have Shane Vereen, Danny Woodhead. Sound like they would be better starts, although they might be weak flex options behind Stephon Ridley. Of course, Ridley, who I have at least on one team. Oh yeah, woo woo! The hopefully great comeback and miracle push for the fantasy playoff starts in another alternate universe. But anywho, so probably Ridley, best option of both. Shane Green, Danny Woodhead, desperation claims, starts, plays, whatever, what happened. Green Bay lost backup Brandon Sane, and you're going, is this guy Sane? Yeah, I am. I'm really Sane. I'm Sane, and I'm sober right now. I am. Not caffeinated either. Brandon Sane, torn ACL week 6. Ouch, ouch. Season done. Alex Spring, not exactly, by the power of Grayskull, but he's a start. He's at least a start. James Starks, sparingly. And then the Packers claim former Buffalo Johnny White. So probably White only in deep leagues. Starks, deep leagues if you're deep leagues. Deep leagues. What's a deep league? Deep leagues. Starks if you're desperate. Detroit, and we haven't even gone through the wide receivers. We have to save the wide receivers and tight end for the next show, kids. But yeah, Johnny White. Detroit, of course. Much thoughts to you if you drafted Javid Best. Doesn't like he was really awesome. But pretty much, yeah, he's going from PUP to IR, season pretty much done. Last known concussion just might have done things in, even though it's been basically a year. And career could be over. And Lions note dose, at least as far as running backs are concerned. Kevin Smith, healthy, inactive week 6. Looks like they don't like him much in Detroit. So you've got Joyque Bell, who's the number uno backup spot. Of course, Mikel LaShore could be considered as a potential and could be considered as a handcuff. Bell could be considered as a handcuff. That's easy for me to say. Handcuff to LaShore. So there you go. And we're going to need to save the other story too because I'm looking at the time, but I'll tease it for tomorrow about how about the biggest state record for Oregon with the teams. You tune in tomorrow. Not only will I tell you how much both teams scored, but we'll also explore a little bit more in the story from Yahoo Sports. Yahoo! I don't get paid anything for doing that. I just like doing that. I don't know why I do. I do Yahoo! 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 I know. It's just something that popped in my brain. But anyway, so that takes care of your picking on A-Rod quota. Takes care of your Yankees are almost done. Holy shinola, can you really believe it? Quota. Took care of yakking a little bit about fantasy football, at least as far as quarterbacks and running backs are concerned. Quota. The James Bond, soon to be trilogy, yakking quota. Bond. Mr. Bond. And I would like that shaken, not stirred. You know, one is like dry martinis is about as dry as my jokes. Yo, pump, pump, or that'll be a bump, 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 you decide. So I'll talk about the Oregon, the crazy high school game that happened there. More injuries with wide receivers. What's a wide receiver? I don't know. I know what a wide receiver is. It's what a wide receiver is. Yo, talk about more about that stuff, and who knows? Maybe one or two more stories that are out there as well. But sticking to the plan time of 45 minutes or less, and staying on topic more or less. Thank you all for listening to me ramble incessantly about James Bond, Infinity Swords, Infinity Gauntlets, A-Lob, Swords of Damocles, and all that good stuff. So that's it for me, the crazy guy, Joel Rowan, in Tampa Motor Mouth in the zone behind the microphone. All crazy all the time, and even if it's outside time and space, still crazy there too. Yes, thank you. Talk at you next time, man. If you want to send any comments, any questions, any snark my way, it's on Twitter at Sports Shuffle, one word, or just look for me on Facebook, Sports and Shuffle with no the. So that's it for me. You're still you, and I am G to the O to the N to the E. Generic sponsor right now. Just chilling. That's the generic sponsor. Eyes out.